Welcome to today's webinar, From Reactive to Proactive Quality, SkyWater Technology's Key to ROI, sponsored by ETQ. I'm Dirk Ducharme, Editor-in-Chief for Quality Digest, and your host for today's webinar. Organizations aspire to transform their quality processes from reactive to proactive. Quality professionals know that the sooner in the quality process an issue is identified, the lower the cost to address. No rework or scrap, warranty, shipping or brand damage. Research shows that 2/3 of organizations are moving away from quality as merely an operational compliance issue and starting to treat quality as a strategic business initiative. So today we're going to learn how to identify key areas for being more proactive, drive the ROI in quality investments, and convey that to executives at your organizations. Today's presenters are David Isaacson, Vice President, Product Marketing at ETQ, and Tom Perkins, Operational Excellence Program Manager at SkyWater Technology. David has over 25 years experience in software product marketing and product management. He has successfully brought software as a service products to market for a variety of industries and high growth companies. And he has worked for software companies such as Anaqua, VFA Accruent, and Oracle, where he led the product management team responsible for integrating analytics into the Oracle database. Tom has over 20 years of experience in quality management systems as well as Lean Six Sigma. He has worked in all aspects of manufacturing, from aerospace, medical device, and automotive, as well as general manufacturing. Currently, he is the Operational Excellence Program Manager for SkyWater Florida, where he is responsible for stepping up the manufacturing fab, as well as implementing a lean culture. And David, I believe you are starting us off.
Great, and thank you, Dirk. Appreciate it very much. The introduction there, very nice. And I'm really excited to be joined today by Tom. I think we have a really interesting discussion that we'll talk about today, because we're really looking at return on investment and how that really goes hand in hand with quality management. We, over the past several years, have visited ROI on a regular basis. It is so critical from a business perspective. And so as we go through today, just want to give you an introduction, first of all, to ETQ, but then talk about ROI. And then Tom will come on and really talk about SkyWater and how they've embraced the return on investment and some of the decision making that they've made. At the end, we'll take your questions, and so we'll jump into it. So let's start real quick. Introduction to ETQ. We are a vendor who provides quality management systems, but it's not just for any specific point in time on the quality cycle, but it's the entire product life cycle. Quality is so important, whether you're just in the beginning of designing a product or rolling it out to your customers and everything in between, that we feel that there are implications across the entire product life cycle when it comes to quality. We want to make sure that whether you are thinking about your supply chain or thinking about how you're manufacturing a product, that quality is part of the overall process. Therefore, ETQ has really taken this to heart and is working with a broad range of customers to ensure that their quality management needs are met. Our customers span a very broad set of industries, whether it's manufacturing, life sciences, food and beverage, electronics, and so forth. What we are able to do is bring an integrated set of quality management technologies, tools, and applications to bear on today's quality issues. We're able to take the learnings from each of these different industries and apply them cross-functionally and across industries. And that's something our customers have really come to appreciate, is that they can learn from each other, not just from the vendor, but from each other, what the best quality processes and practices are, helping to move the entire state of the art in the industry forward. Part of what ETQ provides is a proven QMS, proven quality management system that is built on a very strong platform of technology with, as I said, a very broad range of capabilities with a lot of flexibility so you can tailor your solution exactly to your needs. Makes it impactful. As it says there, a proven ROI. The users are more actually using the system and more engaged. They get in there and they are able to do their jobs more effectively. It's empowering. The system is flexible. It can adapt to your needs, not just today, but into the future. As the industry changes, as the market changes, as customers and suppliers change, you can adapt in real time. Also, you can look at this as a global system. You don't have to have different instances or different quality management systems to support different parts of your organization. One single quality management system can support all of your quality needs. And we look at this as a future-proof technology platform that can support today's best-of-breed technologies and quality management processes, as well as tomorrow's, because of the way the architecture of the environment, the architecture of the system has been put together. So ETQ provides a quality management system. There are 42 broad-based applications that support a wide range of different functions, whether it's core capabilities such as document control and corrective actions and audits, or more specialized functions like new product introduction or life sciences requirements in terms of capturing customer complaints and e-signatures and supporting 21 CFR, all in this single agile platform that sits on top of the cloud. So you have access to the environment regardless of where you are with the right security built in. Supports industry standards and allows you to make a lot of changes if you need to through a low code or no code approach. A lot of drag and drop, a lot of simple scripting. You don't have to be a programmer to make changes to the environment. There are a number of pillars in a quality management system that we want to make sure are reflected in our product. First, it has to be usable. Your users want to be able to get access to the system, do their jobs, and do them well. It needs to be flexible. I've already talked about that, where you can make changes and adapt as the market changes. A third pillar is visibility, where you collect a lot of data, you do a lot of work, you want to be able to report on it. You want to be able to understand what's going on in the business. You want to be able to react if things are going the wrong way. You track trends, be able to adjust as needed. And then it has to be scalable. As your business grows, as it changes, your system should be able to change with you. You shouldn't have to change systems. You shouldn't have to call up the vendor and say, I need more of X. It should just adapt as your needs change for you. So that's a quick introduction to ETQ and what we provide. Now let's really start to dig into the ROI story here a bit. First of all, I just want to talk about a couple of trends and what we see in terms of direction in the market. As I said, we've talked about ROI many times over the last several years. And what we have learned from our customers and those that we've talked to in the industry is it's really about aligning cross-functionally, where quality is not this standalone organization. And I think you'll hear that from Tom in just a moment, but it impacts, as I said, across the entire spectrum of the product lifecycle, which means that the quality teams need to be talking to everybody in these different organizations. Whether that is making sure that the products you get from the supply chain are appropriate, whether you are working and understanding what's coming off the production line is at the appropriate quality, and the design is correct, whether that's the logistics side, getting product out to the market. Quality has to understand and be in touch with all these different organizations. And what that means then is, rather than speaking the language just of quality, you need to be able to speak the language of business. You know, we talk about PPAP and CAPAs and NCRs and a whole language unto ourselves as quality professionals. the rest of the business doesn't necessarily talk that same way. We have to be able to talk ROI. We need to be able to talk scrap and waste and inventory carrying costs. And those are the things that get the rest of the business aligned with what quality is looking to drive. And that's where you can show ROI from your investment in your quality management system. Now, being in quality management, it's a journey, right? Where we are right now is not the end point, but it's a journey. And as we see the growth in quality management capabilities, as I talked about, we have a broad range of capabilities. The best approach as you go through this journey is to start slow, get really good, and then continue to grow over time. And that is what really will drive future-proof ROI. Whether we're starting at the Ignite phase, as it shows there on the screen, with some simple capabilities, document control, training management, et cetera, moving through Accelerate, where we're starting to see integrations, because as I said, we're not standalone. We need to integrate with other enterprise systems, get outside and expand into working with suppliers as well, and eventually get to that transformative stage where we're seeing digital transformation, quality 4.0, and the broad ecosystem that's possible with the quality management system at the center. One final note, a couple notes that I want to talk about here before I turn the mic over to Tom, is thinking about that ROI. And we work with a broad range of customers, as I said, and we've measured the impact of quality on those organizations, working with them hand in hand. GE Transportation, which is a part of Wabtec, they build trains, locomotives. They've seen significant return on investment over the last 10 years or so, whether it's a reduction in defects, a reduction in their cost of quality, which they measure very carefully, or productivity gains. All of those are possible because of the investment they made in their quality management system. And the other example I want to talk about is where you see high impact is on the supply chain. Being able to react to supply chain disruptions, that's a fact of life these days. And so being able to bring in new suppliers, to kick out suppliers who aren't providing the right level of quality, really is important in terms of how you manage and think about the supply chain. Now with that, enough about what we do on the ETQ side. I want to turn over to Tom, who's going to talk us through what's going on with SkyWater. Over to you, Tom.
Great, thanks, David. Look, really happy to be here and share our journey with ETQ and how we utilized ROI to move forward within the organization. So next slide. Actually, next one past that one.
Got it.
So a little bit of a disclaimer, even though I am in Florida, I am a New England native, so I apologize if you hear R's where they're not supposed to be, or if I take them out where they should be. So just a little humor to get into this. So next slide there, David. So who is SkyWater? So we are the only US-owned pure play foundry in the semiconductor market. And we have two distinct businesses, manufacturing as a service and innovation as a service. So semiconductor fabs, the equipment is very, very expensive. So customers do not want to go out and build their own fabs. So they utilize us almost as a contract manufacturer to manufacture high volume when it comes to semiconductor wafers and chips. But also because of our expertise, we also offer technology as a service. At advanced technology business. So we take the customer's idea and streamline it to production. So really a service organization on that side. And as everybody knows, when COVID hit, the supply chain shortage and the delay of chips from overseas into the US has really put a focus on having everything on US soil. Next slide. So we currently have 2 facilities. SkyWater Minnesota is a 91,000 foot clean room, class 10. And SkyWater has been in existence for 5 years as a spinoff from another company. And then SkyWater entered into an agreement to take over a facility in Florida that is actually in partnership with the county, and stepping up that facility into production readiness. That one's a 26,000 class 1,000, 9,400 of a class 10,000. And we also have space behind us to expand that fab. Recently, because of the CHIPS Act, we are breaking ground on a 3rd facility in SkyWater, Indiana, in conjunction with Purdue University in the state of Indiana. So we'll have 3 locations in the US that everything stays here. And obviously that's attractive to government programs as well as any other customer of ours. Next slide. So wanted to talk a little bit about the whole selection and purchase and expansion plans. So we assessed our systems. We had antiquated doc management system, utilizing a lot of spreadsheets, emails, PowerPoint. On the EH&S and training side, multiple systems, and there really was no easy way to drive systemic improvements because the data was all over the place. And as you know, we want to manage by data. So we identified that, hey, we have a need. So we went through and did internal requirements gathering of, regardless of what the system is, these are the things that we want them to do. We identified 3 providers, demoed the solution, and ultimately chose ETQ as the service provider for the quality management and environmental management system. Some of the key decision factors for us is ease of use. The full solution is available, as David mentioned, all the different modules and applications. I always refer to ETQ as not a quality management system or an environmental management system. It's really a business operating system for us. Because we are using it for so many things in there. The other key decision factor is because of our government contracts, we needed to make sure that the cloud-based offering had GovCloud, so segregates our data into US owned US servers, as well as only US people can work from ETQ on anything that we might need their assistance with. So that really was a driving factor through that. So we started that journey, I would say August, September last year. We purchased on January 3rd with the core applications, life science, health and safety, environmental management. During the year, we ended up seeing a lot of benefits in the additional module sets, and we pretty much have purchased all remaining modules except for supplier management, and that will actually be sometime in later 2023 that we will do that. So for us, document management, training management, those are usually the two applications that companies implement, but we saw more value in going with the corrective action module, audit management, risk register, and the accident and safety reporting. So we had that done for the first half of the year. The second half of the year, right through till the end of next month, is the remaining health and safety. We are working on our dock control and training management, and also customer feedback. As we know, feedback comes in all shapes and forms from the customer through email, phone, smoke signal, whatever. And we really want a centralized location to be able to capture that so that we can track and trend and improve our processes. We've also identified our roadmap for the first half of 2023. We're going to be implementing some pieces of change management, FMEA, non-conformance reporting, compliance obligations, and go from there and just continue to refine our processes. So next slide. So what does it mean to us for ROI is really moving from reactive to proactive, eliminating those non-value activities. So we had multiple systems if it wasn't outside of a spreadsheet or PowerPoint. We had a system for training management. We had a system for our dock management. We had a system for calibration, and really bringing that all into one central location that we can create the metrics that we can monitor the improvements. One of the things also is we are, for the quality organization within SkyWater, is moving towards a profit center versus pure overhead. So really focusing on those value add activities to the customer that allows us to really self-fund any type of personnel expansion that we want to do, again, because of our technology as a service. It's based on time and material and other things. So really getting our quality folks to be more proactive. When we talk about speaking the language, really you want to talk about the bottom line. And it's obviously on three different pillars. So the hard savings, that's the actual cost to the bottom line. So if we're reducing scrap, that is really hitting our bottom line and showing the improvements. Warranty costs, that's money that's already gone out the door and given back. So how do we be more proactive and help contribute to the bottom line of the company? And really, for us, the whole idea of this business operating system is to look for tracking and trending, as well as risk reduction and avoidance. So as we know, with the standards, it's all about risk. But for us, we really look at everything based on a risk-based approach. And so for that, we utilize the risk register to capture all of the things. So for example, in our facilities group, they utilize that for all the different things that go into running a semiconductor fab on the facility side. And utilizing the risk register to help drive down that risk, identifying what those top items are based on the risk criteria and saying, okay, here are the things that we really need to work on this year. Again, driving decisions by data is instead of saying, I think we should work on X, well, we have the data to support that we really want to work on Z. One thing that we have found is the more you use the system, the more you will see that increase in the ROI. So, we are always looking to, hey, where can we utilize ETQ? Because the way I have viewed it and have talked about it within the company is there are three pillars of systems. One is our MES system, manufacturing execution, so on the shop floor. The other one is our ERP system, so our enterprise resource planning and the financials and all that. And the third one is our business operating system. So on top of that is the integration piece so that the systems are talking to each other, as David mentioned. So in our MES system, if there's a non-conformance, it's going to automatically trigger the creation of a non-conformance in ETQ when it's which will also feed into the ERP system to say, hey, this product is on hold. Once it's been dispositioned in ETQ, it will then communicate back out to the other systems and say, you now can use that material. By value drivers, reducing risk of non-compliance. So as we are centralizing our corrective actions into one location, we are looking for those places where okay, maybe this isn't necessarily, it's not a corrective action right now, but now we've seen 4 occurrences and now we have to say, okay, it needs to elevate to a corrective action to address. And we all know, and the savings, again, can be hard savings or cost avoidance. Well, cost avoidance is the amount of time for us that it's going to take to address the non-conformance from a certification body. SkyWater Minnesota actually has aerospace, med device, automotive, 9001, 14,000. So a lot of audits that take place because of our customer base. And we'd rather be working on things to be proactive than trying to fix issues. Also streamlining operations. So for, as we now have consolidated systems into ETQ, we now can do reporting. We can do the things and watch the trends to see, and we'll talk about that in a minute about all the data for ROI, reducing costs, and the grow, protect revenue is I'll talk about. We didn't necessarily look at that for our ROI. It's very hard to talk about, well, if we do implement this solution, that we're going to see revenue increases. So we focus more on the bottom line of how can we reduce those non-value added activities. Next slide. So some of the speed bumps that we had experienced, because we didn't have a system like ETQ, the data was all over the place. And so trying to really find that relevant data to help with the ROI. So how many corrective actions, how many audit findings, scrap, and all these things, how long does a doc change to a document take, and that. So it took a while to actually get all the relevant data, and then validating how much time did it take for each activity to go through, and then accounting for that scrap and rework, as I think most companies struggle of capturing how much rework it goes into a business. Most companies are great at capturing scrap, but then even we have a scrap number. Has it been analyzed? Has it been Paretoed? Is it a human factor that's causing it or whatnot? So we really needed to dig into that. And then also for rework is that it's that hidden cost, non-value add. As I say in the organization, anything that has re in front of it is non-value added. Rework and the cost of the time of rework, which and also the cost of any additional material. Measure, 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 bring the data to the forefront, really show how that with the visibility in data that we can have these improvements, and review with the right leaders within the organization every 6 months. So, this is what we said we were going to achieve. We now can see that, okay, because of ETQ, we're seeing either it could be an increase in audit findings internally. That's okay, but we're now, okay, we have a central repository so that we can see all of the stuff that goes into the company that we can feed into that ROI. So next slide.
I think that's
it.
That's your last slide there. And
Wow.
any wrap-up thoughts there on your previous slide before we jump into discussion?
Honestly, it's having the data, even though it takes a while to get the right data that you can get in front of the executives, and how that translates to either hard cost savings or cost avoidance, and it could be because of X, we can delay hiring an additional person. And obviously in my OpEx role, I'm always saying, how can we do more with the same amount of people instead of bringing in additional human resources? How can we go from there? And I'll tell you that ROI piece has really spread through the organization, that we utilize ROIs on purchases over X dollar amount within the company of just getting that structure for people to think of how can we, is it something we have to buy right now? Can we wait a quarter? If we wait a quarter, what's the risk? And going from there. So sure. It really is a powerful tool for us.
That's great. I see Dirk has come back on because we're going to do a poll question here, right, Dirk?
Yeah. Thanks, guys. And let me do a little housekeeping at the same time I put up that question. You guys everybody should see a poll question there. If you did, when you registered, say that you need a certificate of attendance, you do need to answer this poll question. So please do that. And while we're letting people answer this poll question, did you want to take a question, David, and maybe use that to kill some time for this poll?
Yeah, well, I have a couple of questions, things that I wanted to ask Tom about here that have come up. And, you talked about measure, Tom. Before you were able to measure, you got to get the data.
Yep.
How did you find the data? You said it was all over the place. How did you even get it?
It took a while. It was trying to find where in the organization, for example, our corrective action process there was spreadsheets that had the corrective action. So and really validating that data, going to finance, I think I touched every organization within the company to get all the relevant data that would go into that ROI.
Interesting, which relates to our poll question now. Do we have results, Dirk? What do you
Let's
think?
go ahead and let me end this poll here for everybody and share the results.
Wow. Okay. So 33%, so 1/3 is measuring ROI. Another 50% aren't, and the rest are not sure. What do you think, Tom? Is that something you would have expected from this crowd?
I would actually, because typical quality organizations don't look at the ROI. You know, it's more around the cost avoidance or the hidden costs of if you have a non-conformance or you have a corrective action, what that really costs, because it's just an activity that goes on, but there are costs associated with everything we do.
What do you think, Dirk? Is that in keeping with what you've seen in the past?
Yeah, I mean, this actually doesn't surprise me a whole lot. And I don't think it's surprising either that these numbers tend to align with the number of the percentages of people that are using a cloud-based QMS system, which, you know, you ask what percentage of people are using a cloud-based QMS system. Typically that number is about 25%. Which gives you the, you know, cloud-based QMS gives you the ability to do this ROI and to track a lot of this, right? I mean, you have the tools at your fingertips. You don't have the tools at your fingertips, it's going to be a little bit harder to track ROI. So I'm not too surprised at this, really.
All right, that makes sense. And Tom, we talked about, you know, speaking the language of business, and you certainly seem to have done that in a lot of what you presented today. How did you, when you started though, think about that and get buy-in from your management that to even go down the quality management path here to get a system to make this investment?
A lot of it was talking around risk. Luckily, within SkyWater and my organization upwards, they understand. So this was, you know, a little bit easier because we were able to say, okay, these are the things that we have, you know, X amount of, you know, non-conformances or scrap, and are we doing any trending on it, and how are we driving for improvement? So it was we were ROIing without officially calling it ROI at the beginning. And you know, I have to say, you're within ETQ, you know, in the sales team, they are really good at helping the ROI perspective, because of their knowledge, because of tools you have available. That really helped to drive that along.
Okay. And then as we get here more into the questions, just curious, what was the reception of the C-suite when you went to them with your initial ROI? And warm welcome? Did they say not enough information? How did they react to you?
Actually, to pitch the move to ETQ was real easy, because we had already, or you know, me along with other members had already done the ROI to say, hey, this is what we are able to do, and you know, and put a lot of faith in ETQ that everything that I, you know, saw was going to deliver, and put my neck out on the line, and so to speak, which I really, you know, what I always say about ETQ, it's like bowling without gutters. you're going to hit a pin, because it's just that scalable, easy solution to implement that helps the business. So going with that ROI to them, there wasn't really any question of how did you validate the data or whatnot. One thing that we were able to point out, and that we're realizing the benefits right now, is all these disparate systems that we were using. So, for example, on our training management, the system that we are using, we actually notified them that we're not renewing our contract because we're going to be utilizing ETQ for it. So we consolidated systems down, which I'll take as part of the ROI, but also I can leverage that to build into other things within ETQ that we might want to do in the future. But the reception was, this is actually great for the company. We're in a unique position. It's I'll call it a startup because SkyWater has been around for 5 years. We're roughly 250 million, call it, give or take. I don't know what the exact numbers are, but what takes you to get to this point does not carry you forward. And so a lot of people-based processes and disparate systems. Well, if we now want to take the next leap, we now need to look at systemic systems and processes to be able to move forward and drive the business.
Sure. Makes a lot of sense. Now, on the pie chart we showed a couple slides ago, you showed specific percentages in terms of ROI, and you talked about how you did some calculating of those ROIs. A question from Gina is specific to some of that data. How are you calculating cost avoidance and risk reduction avoidance that can be reflected as a positive ROI?
So that one, I'm going to promote ETQ again, but work with your working with the sales team. They had that template to help quantify the costs. I could have an idea of numbers, but the account executives really can help get that ROI quantified. And it was kind of in line of what I would expect for what's the cost of, for example, what's the cost of an external non-conformance? What's the cost of an internal? How much time do we spend on audit reports and those cost avoidance? For us around risk, it's really, we quantify our risk avoidance. So within the risk register is, okay, if it's a high risk item, what are the things that we are putting in place, and what are we going to see on that as either risk avoidance or that? And ETQ has the great ability to calculate a lot of those things. Just within non-conformance, you can capture the cost of all the things that go with it, and next thing you know, you have a dashboard that shows all the data that you need and the costs.
Yeah, that's great. And just so people on the phone understand what you're talking about, on the screen I've listed some additional resources. The one right in the middle that says Hobson and Company on it was a research project that we undertook, and we interviewed a lot of customers to understand specifically where they were saving money and driving ROI and driving increased revenue. And the worksheet that you talked about and the spreadsheet that was used, the data comes straight from that research. So it's based upon live customers who have gone through and really understood what their ROI is across all of those different dimensions. All right, so next question from Sharon. She says, I am trying to develop more robust ROIs in a service center environment, a call center specifically. We do conduct internal audits and keep a risk register. Any other suggestions to show the value of the quality program, because we don't necessarily have scrap or recalls? So a kind of a different thought process here. What do you think, Tom?
What I would think in a call center, and David, please help me on this one a little bit. I would think, how many, how do you measure first time right? Are you able to address the customer or the issue on the first time, or do they have to call back or on that, and going from there?
Yeah, and Dirk, I'm going to bring you into this as well. I don't know if you've
seen
this from a services perspective in your experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and actually, I think everybody can relate to this. There's the callback bit, right? Is you get a customer service person, and they just don't answer your question, and finally, in frustration, you hang up, and then you immediately call back again in the hopes that you're going to get a different customer service agent who's going to. Okay, so that's wasted time. It's wasted time for the client. It's wasted time obviously for the people at the call center. So I think being able to track callbacks related to the same issue, I think that's important. And also I see a number of, because I'm with tech support quite a bit in my job. So I do see what I think is very useful is these surveys that come back once you're done with tech support and they ask some very important questions. Number one, was the agent able to solve your problem? And did you feel the agent was knowledgeable? And, a couple of, basically it's usually those two questions. Maybe there's a third one. I think being able to track that in some way and then go back and revisit that, those are really important metrics, because those are just soft things, right? If you'll see it very often, and not go off on a tangent here, but you see it very often when you're looking at product reviews, right? How often have you seen, love the product, but the customer service was awful, right? That can be enough to dissuade some people from buying your product. So even something like a call center or soft products, you've got to be able to track that customer response and then respond to it in some way, in the way you're dealing with your call center or the way you're dealing with your customer service.
Very good. At that, right now, we don't have any other questions. Just a reminder to everybody to use the Zoom widget with Q&A to submit any questions.
Down there at the bottom of your screen, down there, the Q&A button.
And one just popped in. Ask and you shall receive. Take a look. Let's see. All right.
Well, a big thank you.
It's a thank you.
Well, you kind of touched on it, but so you mentioned that report, your center thing, the reports and white papers and guides. What seemed to be, if you recall from that, what seemed to be the biggest metric, the biggest thing that people said had the most influence on their managers, right? I mean, I think there's some types of cost savings that really get your attention, and there's some that are they're cost savings, but unless you sell it right, they seem too squishy to really tilt the needle, and you got to really be able to sell it to say, no, Rick, this is a soft cost, but there really is savings in here. Right. How do you respond to that?
So one thing that I think by nature in organizations is we do a lot of good work, but we're just so busy in work and improving that we don't stop to actually look at the improvements that we have made, just because it's okay, it's just do it. We fix it and, or we improve it and we move on. And getting that mindset really helps on that. Okay, so because of this, we have avoided X, Y, and Z. So one of the things that from my OpEx role is I'm introducing the kind of a one-page lesson type of format of was it a just do it, was it a Kaizen, whatnot, and before and after, and what did it affect? Did it affect safety, the productivity, and all that? And understanding the process and then putting a dollar amount to that, or we avoided, a perfect example of one is, we actually had a tool here that needed some work done on it, and the team thought outside the box, and for, say, I'm just throwing numbers out, but say for $500 in their time, they were able to do something on the tool that would have cost, again, throwing numbers out, I think it was $10,000. And, they just did it. Well, now with the mindset we have, it's, well, hold on, stop. Let's capture that as an improvement so that we can show, but also how does that tie into our risk register within ETQ? Do we need to change anything there? And we can capture it that way as well.
Okay, and Dirk and Tom both, when we did this research project, the single biggest area of ROI that was measurable was around scrap and inventory carrying costs. Those were the big, those could have the most immediate large drive to an ROI. And then certainly there was a lot of productivity savings as well, but the single biggest factor was in real hard savings.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of inventory, but for us, it's the efficiencies within the process.
Sure.
We can get more, through the tools to be able to meet customer demand, because being the only U.S. owned semiconductor, we more business than anything right now.
Okay. All right, we have a few more questions that came in. We put a call out and they came in, so let's take them off the list here. So a question from Matt: how have you seen successful companies align quality and CI hard savings to drive customer satisfaction? So go beyond ROI, and how does that translate to customer sat?
So for us, having the data in one place and be able to look at it, and really, how can we first time write as many things as possible, and really, so within SkyWater, we spend a lot of time on training and talking about root cause and corrective action, and go from there, so that you, if you fail fast and fix fast.
Okay. All right. Jonathan had a very specific question on ROI. Do you, or how do you measure ROI for calibration?
So we don't on calibration. The one thing that I've done in other companies is you need to evaluate your calibration program to see if it really needs to be calibrated versus verified. And we were able to, in one company, we eliminated a lot of devices that way for significant cost savings per year, things that really didn't need to be calibrated.
Okay.
Well, and I'd say there's two sides to the calibration bit. There's wasted money on calibrating things too often, when you don't need to, and there's also the problem of not calibrating often enough, and then finding out you've used an uncalibrated system, gauge, whatever it is, to measure product, and now you find out that that gauge was out of calibration, and now you got to pull all that product back in. Not so much an issue maybe with semiconductor, but certainly within manufacturing, you've got to pull all that product back in because you wouldn't know whether the measurements were accurate or not, because you measured with a calibration, a gauge that was out of calibration, right? So both sides of that.
Yeah, definitely, and the frequency is really important. You know, it's one company I worked for, they were calibrating every 6 months. They had 10 years of data showing it was always went in, calibrated in spec, and came out. Okay, you know what? Maybe we can change that to every year or a year and a half, and go from there. And that's, you know, it's all about recognizing all those opportunities and going from there.
Okay. All right. Next question is from Gail. And I don't know, Tom, you can talk about this, but she wants to know if you use an ETQ module to generate POs. It seems that no database system has an efficient method to generate purchase orders, get the approvals, and initiate the buy. So how do you do that?
So Gail, if you find a solution, please let me know. That's actually one of the value streams that that we are working on right now, of the order to cash and procure to pay. And yeah, I think it's a challenge with every company.
And that would be a solution that would sit alongside the quality management system, wouldn't necessarily be something that you'd expect in the quality management system.
Exactly. You know, unless you want to get into purchase orders, Dave, you know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, we're going to stick to what we know best.
Exactly.
And then the last question from Art is, what's the best way to get started on a path to more ROI? On a path to ROI?
Capture your data, measure. And as I've said, is really step back and look at it of, you know, just take 2021, for example. How many corrective actions did you have? How many customer complaints? How many supplier corrective actions? You know, and try to estimate the time that goes in there, and put a dollar amount per that. And honestly, you know, if you're you know, using ETQ or thinking about it, engage with the people at ETQ. You know, they will help you with that, and it really goes a long way.
Thank you, Tom. That's it for the questions. Really appreciate your joining me today for this webinar. Dirk, thanks for hosting us, and back to you.
Sure, no problem. Yeah, David, Tom, once again, thanks for a good webinar. I appreciate it. And of course, thanks to all of you out there for attending and taking an hour out of your day to learn some stuff. So you will be getting an email in about 24 hours with a link to a recording of this webinar. So if you want to share that with your friends or go back and watch it again and kind of refresh what was covered here, you can do that. Keep your eyes open for that email. It will be about this time tomorrow. You should get that, and it'll come from Quality Digest. And that is it. So from all of us here at Quality Digest and ETQ, thanks for joining, and we will see you at the next webinar. So long.
Thank you.